I remember when my youngest son, Aaron, was in the ABA program and we were really working so hard to get him to school, we were pushing his imitation skills because I knew that's how he was going to learn play sequences, and that's how he was going to learn to imitate his peers. And actually, that's how we learn language, right? Is because we imitate. But I love how you listed the prerequisite skills for school. And if the kids don't have that yet, it doesn't mean that they're not going to acquire those skills. That's why we have the ABA program, so that we can work towards that skill acquisition and at some point get them back into school. But I think if you place a child in school who's not ready for school, you really are wasting their time, because they're not able to learn from their natural environment.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So now, a very important question for you. And I know a lot of moms are very anxious about whether or not their child will speak. Have you actually experienced children who are non-vocal learn to speak vocally?
Yes, I definitely have. Right now, I have a 5-year-old who came to us when he was a little under 3. When he first came to us, he played quietly, really only played by himself. Sometimes he would make car sounds because he loves to play with cars. And really, he cried anytime something didn't go his way. The first consistent sound we were able to get him to make was the ah sound. So he used that for everything. Like if he wanted to leave, if he wanted a car, if he wanted to eat, it was ah. Because that wasn't realistic for, once we started working with him, we knew exactly what he wanted, but we knew that wasn't realistic for other people to understand him. So we introduced an iconic system to get him to at least be able to tell us what it is that he wanted, so we could work on, teaching him the vocabulary skills. We also started working on, started pairing, anytime we talked to him and he made any sound in return, we would, give him a lot of praise, let him play with cars. So we started pairing that, responding to someone vocally is going to get him what he wants. And we were able to slowly work our way up to, getting him to say ah when we wanted him to, and then getting him to make specific other sounds. And then we were able to get him to make it to words. And now he's able to make vocal requests. He can use phrases. He can comment on his environment. He makes some very appropriate tasks that a lot of typical kids would make. And this is a kid who 3 years ago had no functional language at all. So it's really been amazing to see him go from, a kid who made car sounds to someone who can tell us that he wants to play with a police car, or that he wants to build a garage for his cars, or, again, commenting on how, this is his favorite car. So yes, definitely have experienced that. And it is one of the most amazing things about ABA, is being able to experience a child go from non-vocal to vocal.
I've experienced many children on the Star Academy program who have acquired vocal speech. Not every child will. ABA is not a magic one that's going to ensure that every single child does acquire vocal speech, but you're definitely going to have an expert team fighting in your corner to help your child acquire that skill. My youngest son, Aaron, could not imitate. He could not make a single sound. He is an absolute miracle. He had severe apraxia. When he started to imitate sounds, he looked like a stroke patient, because the sound would come through one side of his mouth. We could see how his facial muscles were disproportionate. He would say "bah" through the one side corner of his lips. We had to work on every single consonant, vowel, blend. The mission was very fragile, but through a lot of hours, oral motor exercises, working on all the prerequisite skills that come before vocal imitation. I mean, you can't just jump straight into vocal imitation. Again, that's where skills comes in, because the child has to be able to imitate gross motor, as well as actions with objects. And so we really pushed imitation with Erin. And today, Erin has a very fluent conversation. We also have parents sometimes who have children who have echolalia, right? And so ABA can help those kids as well. Jennifer, how would you program for a child with echolalia?
Honestly, I would use that echolalia to our advantage. Teach them to repeat appropriate phrases, or repeat those phrases in the right context. Like, them having echolalia is actually a good sign, because it means that they have vocal abilities and they have the ability to imitate. So we, again, just try to shift that, echolalia to something more functional, being able to ask for what they want, being able to, have a conversation. But it definitely requires that shaping of, okay, first, let's start small. Let's maybe work on, just repeating one thing, or one phrase, and then, teaching them to use a previously learned phrase to respond to what we're saying, instead of just repeating what we're saying. But I feel like echolalia is not necessarily a bad thing, because like I said, it means that they have that ability to imitate vocal language.
I agree with you. I think when a child has echolalia, it's like 50% of the battle won, because they can already imitate. It doesn't mean that a child who can't imitate can't learn to imitate, but if
Absolutely,
they
yeah.
can imitate, it's definitely possible to get in there and tap into the echolalia to get them to a place where they can have a comprehensive conversation. Now, can ABA really improve a child's attention skills?
Yes. Again, we use, what we call shaping. We start very small. Sometimes we have them pay attention to one thing for even just 1 to 3 seconds. That's where we start, depending on where the child is. And, they pay attention to that one thing for even that 1 second, and we reward them, give them breaks, give them rewards. And once they're able to consistently do that, we move it up slower, or slowly we increase it to where, ideally they would be able to sit and pay attention to whatever it is, for longer periods of time. We also kind of, make sure we're very intentional with what we're using. Maybe we start with things that they enjoy, and being able to sit and pay attention to things that they enjoy, but not necessarily, at a table. And then we move our way up to, again, things that are non-preferred, and being able to sit and read a book or do some homework. But yes, we can definitely work on attention, and, we can work on paying attention to non-social things, like, again, a book or a toy, but also to social things, paying attention to other people. So again, when they are in school, they can pay attention to their teacher who is talking.
I love how you explained that. I also love how skills breaks down the different kinds of attention that you can have. Sustained it. You have to first know how to shift your attention before you can sustain your attention, and then later on divide your attention. And those are different skills. And I think it was so fascinating for me to understand that. There's also joint attention, which is actually in the social skills domain. The shifting attention, sustained attention, and divided attention is in the executive functioning domain. So it was so interesting for me to learn about all the different kinds of attention, and why those skills were important for success in a classroom. And I have seen it possible to teach those skills. And how we do that is to rely on the principles of ABA and on reinforcement, and slowly just increasing the increments of time that you're expecting that child to sustain or divide their attention. Now, a lot of parents are not getting a good night's sleep. I actually spoke to a 22-month-old, a parent of a 22-month-old child today. She was very, very sad and worried because she was picking up the red flags to autism. And she said, Ilana, he wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning and that's it. Okay. Can ABA help to get these kids to fall to sleep and to stay to sleep?
Yes. I feel like I'm a broken record when I say this, but again, we always have to rule out the medical causes of it because again, ABA, as amazing as it is, cannot cure medical problems. So, we have to rule that out. And then, really, we approach sleeping as a behavior. So we would conduct probably a functional behavior assessment where we would look at what's happening before they're going to sleep or while they're supposed to be going to sleep, look at the environment, see if there's any triggers or factors that could be causing them to not fall asleep very quickly or fall asleep, take a long time to fall asleep. We look at how they're sleeping, whether they're sleeping peacefully once they do fall asleep, if they're waking up frequently, all of that. And then we also look at what happens after, what happens when they're waking up, because that, putting all of that information together will tell us how to address sleep behaviors. Some kids need, just need a simple routine created as before they go to sleep so they can train their body to, understand that it's time to sleep. Some kids wake up and they know that they get to play when they wake up, or they know that, they get some extra snuggle times with parents. And so that's why they wake up and stay awake. So we really have to look at, all of the environmental factors. And then once we determine that or get that information, then we can really come up with a plan to help with sleep.
That's very encouraging to know that you actually can come up with a plan for sleep. Now, just from having looked for treatment options for David, who kept us awake for many years, I will share from the medical side, just as a parent, because I'm not a doctor and parents must be guided by their doctor, but what I have learned is some of the medical reasons for a child waking up in the middle of the night or not sleeping through the night can be acid reflux. I would also check if that child possibly has an ear infection. If there is a yeast infection in the gut, that can be something that can keep a child up at night. And also deficient vitamins or minerals. For example, David was very deficient in vitamin B6. And once we started to supplement vitamin B6 in very, very high doses, and I mean high doses, he would sleep through the night. But now, don't run and give your child vitamin B6. Every child is an individual and can be missing different vitamins or minerals. Like many children that don't sleep through the night can be deficient in magnesium. So you really do need to do testing and determine if your child is deficient. And then, to supplement those deficiencies can help. Sometimes they're just hungry and they've actually just run out. They can run out of feeling full much faster than a typically developing child. And so they maybe need something to eat to settle them. I mean, I learned that about my son, and that's linked to their mitochondria. So the mitochondria is the engine of the cell. And, if you are following a biomedical treatment protocol, a lot of the doctors will assess the child's mitochondria. That's the engine of the cell. That's something you can discuss with your doctor. I think it's also important just to check what you are giving your child to drink if they're waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning, because if you're giving them a milk bottle, I would imagine that could be contributing to the autism symptoms, because a lot of children do well when you remove food allergies, including gluten, dairy, soya, sugar. And, if you can find a formula that is a rice-based protein shake, but consult your pediatrician and find out, what formula will work for your child, especially when they're still small, they're 2 years old or they're 3 years old, and they're wanting a bottle in the middle of the night. But I think addressing those medical issues, they could also just be waking up from stomach pain. We know that a lot of children on the spectrum have gut issues, And when David woke up in the middle of the night, sometimes we gave him, we call it a Buscopan. I don't know what you find in America, but that would just be like a muscle relaxant to help his tummy cramps. That would also help him get back to sleep. But, you know, do speak to your pediatrician or doctor about what possible causes could be. It's not okay for your child not to sleep. Something is happening. And another thing you can discuss with your doctor is melatonin. Our bodies naturally make melatonin, and if the child's body is not making enough melatonin, they're going to struggle to fall to sleep and stay to sleep. What worked for David for many years was when we gave him slow release melatonin, and that would really keep him to sleep. When you're not sleeping, you can't make informative decisions, and everything feels so much worse than what it really is. Don't forget that. So really, let's work on getting everyone in the family to have a good night's sleep. Now, can you share the details of a child's case you worked with at CARD that inspired you the most?
Yes, that's a hard one to think of just one specific case that inspires me the most. I do have a recent case that, you know, on a daily basis just kind of motivates me. I met with this family probably October of last year. You know, they told me that he had tantrums all day. You know, he was 5. He had tantrums all day. If he didn't get what he wanted, you know, the tantrums would happen. And it would be very intense, you know, screaming, crying, throwing, aggression, all of that. He also, you know, had a communication device, but didn't really know how to use it, and parents didn't know how to teach him how to use it. You know, they told me they weren't really sure how much he understood, because they would tell him things and, you know, wouldn't always answer or respond or do what they tell him. So we started ABA, you know, focusing a lot on that communication, teaching him to use his device. We worked on compliance. We worked on trying to improve his receptive language skills, and I worked with his parents weekly to make sure that, or to provide that parent training to make sure they were able to do what we were doing at home as well. You know, October, he didn't know how to use his Dynavox, and now he is able to tell us what he wants. He's able to tell us what he wants, or tell us things about himself that we never taught him. He will tell us when he has a toothache, you know, and we never told him, we never taught him, you know, what a toothache was or where it was or how to get there. And he will tell us, like, you know, when he has a toothache, you know, he's starting to tact things, like, you know, he'll ask for us to sing specific songs. So he's able to get all these things met that, you know, 5 months ago he was not able to do. I talking to his parents recently, you know, he doesn't even have a tantrum every single day anymore. And they're able to actually work on behaviors and skills, and, you know, desensitizing him and working on his inflexibility now, because they're not dealing with those tantrums every single day anymore. And it's just given them the energy to be able to work on, you know, the little things that in the past they would not have been able to work on. So, you know, just seeing how much he's picked up in just a few months, and seeing the time and effort pay off for his parents, and seeing how happy they are now, um, it's very, very, it's the reason why, you know, I do what I do, and I know why a lot of us do what we do, is
Jennifer,
that we're making a change in this family's life.
that's a very, very inspiring story. It's very, very heartwarming, and just thank you for all the wonderful work that you do in changing the lives of so many families. It's so inspiring and motivating to hear you tell this story, and I hope that it gives many parents listening today the encouragement and the hope to know that things really can get better. That's a beautiful story. Now, what message would you like to share for World Autism Awareness Month? 2 April marks World Autism Awareness Day. The month of April, everyone's talking about autism, and we know what's the latest statistics coming from America?
Oh gosh, I'm not caught up on the latest statistics. I
I
want to
must,
say it's 1 in like 30 something.
I think you're right. I must also double check on it, but isn't it just unbelievable to think that there's so many children receiving this diagnosis?
10 years ago when I started, I believe it was 1 in 100,
Oh,
and now I think it's actually 1 in like 44, if I'm actually
yes,
remembering
yes, yes,
correctly.
yes.
So yes, that's a big, big difference. I've actually thought about like why is the rate, or why is the prevalence rate increasing so quickly? And I think a lot of it does have to do with awareness. I've, spent 10 years now working with these kids, and honestly, they still amaze me every day. They work so hard every day. They are the hardest workers that I know. Everything that they do, we take for granted for, everything they do is work for them. And it just comes so naturally for us. So we don't really realize how difficult it is for them to, you know, do these very simple daily things. And so, and there's still so much that we don't know and understand about autism. So I'm hoping that with World Autism Awareness, in the future, we won't need something like this, because we will have more understanding of what autism really is. And, people will be able to get the services that they need. And I think we should, just continue to help them to reach their potential. That's always a goal, help them reach their potential. But I think it's also, um, important that we try to help create a more inclusive world for them. I think it is a little hypocritical for us to expect them to adjust and be flexible to social norms, and if we're refusing to be flexible with what their needs are as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with
so
you. We have so many schools in South Africa who aren't inclusive and won't consider including children on the spectrum. And I'd really like to see that change.
Yeah. And, to parents, to you guys, you're also amazing. I personally can't pretend or even act like I know what it's like for you guys every single day, to know what you're feeling or what your worries are, or, the thoughts that consume you. But I do know that every single parent that I've worked with just love their children and want what's best for them. Um, and, I just want parents to give themselves grace and be patient with themselves, because, at the end of the day, you guys are also still human. And, it's hard to try to be perfect every single day. So,
Yes, that's a lovely message. And from my side, I want parents to have hope. I want them to know that it can get better. Your child can potty train. They will sleep through the night. They will learn to eat a variety of foods, and you will hear their voice. They will learn to communicate, and there is a future. As profoundly autistic as David is, because of ABA, today he works with a chef every morning, and he can peel potatoes and vegetables, and he makes soups and pizzas, and he has a purpose. So I've already watched the movie of autism. I know what's going to happen, and I've experienced the worst case scenario with David. And then my younger son, he's at school, and he's coping with a great curriculum, and he can make friends. And so I've also seen thousands of children in between my two kids. And so there is so much hope, and an ABA program can go a long way in teaching children the functional skills that they need to become independent human beings. And so there's so much that can be done. My message to parents is, please do not despair. And I just want to thank you. It is such an honor and a privilege for our South African team to receive your training and your oversight. We feel incredibly lucky to have you as part of our team.
it's been amazing and fun just working with you guys. And as someone who has personally met Erin, it's amazing the the growth and progress that he's made as well, just seeing where he is now and knowing or hearing about where he started.
Yeah. Well, it's been wonderful to chat to you today. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to share our conversation with our listeners today. With April marking World Autism Awareness Month, we want parents and professionals to know that there is so much hope. There are so many treatment options, and really ABA can go a long way in helping your child acquire those skills that maybe you thought were unimaginable. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Of course. Thank you.